More and more Americans are feeling less financially secure about their future. A survey conducted by Bloomberg in the last quarter of 2021 found that only 34% of respondents in a survey which covered more than 2,000 Americans were feeling financially confident compared to 48% in early 2021. Travis Shelton is a financial coach, podcaster, and speaker, helping businesses and families redefine the role that money plays in their life. Shelton says, money's never about money. It's always about something bigger. He joined me this week to have a meaningful conversation about the true value of money. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Travis, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to be with you to talk all about money this morning. Thank you so very much for being here, and I'm looking forward to engaging in conversation, buddy.
Yes, thank you so much.
So, Travis, you tell the people that you work with that money doesn't always have to be so complicated, and it's not always about money. So I'm wondering if you can tell me all about the great work that you do, buddy.
Well, yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. It means a lot. I always, I might be the only financial person out there that finds money somewhat boring. I don't find there to be a lot of excitement in money, and I always say that money is never about money. It's always about something bigger. And I always just try to always think about that, because we can really like just dwell in the nuts and bolts and the dollars and cents. And I think when we do that, we lose sight of the bigger meaning. And I think that's what makes this money stuff unique, is that everybody has their own journey, their own aspirations, their own situations. And so when we can get past the kind of the boring money stuff, we can talk about what really matters to people. What really motivates them? Where's their heart really at? And I think for me, when I walk alongside of coaching clients, or I'm speaking in front of an audience, to help people figure out, to get past the money, to get to what they're really trying to accomplish in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Travis, you work with a wide variety of people, from recent college graduates to business owners, executives, and even professional athletes to everybody else in between, and you help them do money smarter. So talk to me about having wherewithal or perspective to work with a wide variety of people, and what you learn the most about people by working with them and talking about money all day. I'm curious.
I think this I think surprises a lot of people, but I always say that everybody deals with the same situations. It just looks different. And so my first year teachers are encountering similar situations and similar themes in their life as executives, as professional athletes. It just looks different. And we're talking about them maybe on a different scale, but I see the same themes reaching through our culture, whether we're making 30,000 or 300,000 or 3 million, that people are dealing with the same sorts of just mental hurdles and psychological behavior with money. And so to help just people unlock that in their own unique journey, I think that's what makes this really fun, because these are all different conversations. Every conversation is different, but yet you can see themes that just overlap all the different levels of our society.
Yeah, and professionally, Travis, I'm curious with the do, what brings you the biggest shot of adrenaline or happiness when you see your clients have a financial breakthrough?
For me, it's not even the financial breakthrough. A lot of my clients, they have a bunch of debt and they pay it off and we celebrate. Or, they're trying to accomplish this, XYZ financial goal. They're trying to buy a house, or they're trying to, get their kids in school, whatever that is. And that stuff, it's fun. But the real adrenaline comes when a client says, Travis, this is what I want my life to look like. And sometimes it's a spouse wants to stay home. They're having a baby, they want to stay home. Sometimes it's somebody that has more of a business or an executive type job, and they want to start a nonprofit, or they want to go into ministry, or they want to increase their generosity and they want to make a bigger impact. There's all sorts of things like that when a client says, Travis, this is where my heart is at, and then they get there, that's when I celebrate. That's when I get excited, because I always tell my clients, I always say, if we get to the end of this relationship and you can say to yourself, yeah, life is a little bit better than it was before, to me, that would feel like a giant loss. For me, I want them to look back and say, holy cow, I cannot believe what just happened. For me, that's the win. And when people's lives transform, and I'm not transforming them, they are, but when their lives transform and they say, Travis, this is my dream, and it's not money, it's a thing, it's a shift in direction, it's an aspiration that they felt like couldn't be reached. And when they go and do that, that is my ultimate high, I think, in my business.
Yeah, absolutely. Helping people is what I always say. When you help one person, the rewards that you get personally multiply, don't they?
Oh, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. And Travis, for anyone watching this who may be inspired to take control of their finances and take control of their lives, I'm curious from your perspective. I wanted to ask, what are three tips or tricks that anyone watching this today can take ownership of their own finances in their lives? What piece of advice would you give them, Travis? I'm curious.
Let's see, top three things. I love this question. I think there's three things, and I think aligning with what I said earlier, you're going to find that they're not really about money. But I think this changes everything. I think number one, intentionality. If we have intentionality behind our finances, and what that really means is we just have a plan. Because I think life is crazy and life is busy, and the goods and the bads and everything in between. And I think in the midst of life, we just get overwhelmed. I think we become more reactive with our money than proactive. And so I always tell people, we got to get on the front side of it, and we have to be intentional. We have to have a plan. We have to know what we're going to do with our finances each month, and then do it. So we need to know what we're going to do, have a plan, and do it. I think that's the foundation to getting this money stuff right. And it's not to suck the fun out of it. I always say, budgeting's never about spending less. Budgeting is about spending better. And if our plan, if our budget, if our intentionality sucks the life out of us, that's on us. We need to do a better job, because it should add to our life, not take away from our life. And I think the second thing is I think we need to find a healthy balance between spending, saving, giving. I think all three matter. All three are important. And I meet with a lot of young people, and one trend that I see in our culture is that young people, especially, it's been beaten into them their whole life that spending money is irresponsible. And so all they're told is that saving is responsible, giving is good, and spending is bad. And so we're turning a whole generation into hoarders. They're hoarding money because they feel like they have to, because if they spend, they feel irresponsible because they've been told their whole life they're irresponsible. And I think we're going down a dark road with that. And I believe that if we can help people find the balance, yeah, we need to save. And giving is the best thing we can ever do, but we have to enjoy some of what we're blessed with as well. And I think if we can find that balance, it can really change everything. And we need to remove the guilt. We need to remove the second guessing and the resentment towards spending. And I think we need to get rid of that in our self and in our culture, that spending is bad. And I think we find that balance, we can have a really healthy relationship with money. And then I would say the third thing is that we need to be able to live our money with our values, not the values pushed down from us on our culture. And you don't have to go any further than social media to see that the values of the culture are just being pushed down on us. You have to drive a certain car. You have to go to a certain college. You have to live in a certain neighborhood. You have to wear certain clothes, have certain phones. And I think what I see is that people often spend their money in accordance with what they think they're supposed to do, not what their heart really says. And I always go back to the story, Kevin, about I have a client, and she's a young professional, and she'd always dreamed of traveling. She always wanted to travel, but she could never travel. And she was getting frustrated. She said, Travis, I don't have money to travel. I feel like my young adult years are passing by and I want to travel. And to which I said, well, what about your car? And she goes, well, yeah, I mean, she has a really expensive car. And she's like, well, I have to have this car. It's safe and reliable, but I don't care about it. And I said, well, what about your apartment? And she lived in this very nice apartment. And she goes, well, I don't really care about that. That's my parents said I need to live in this nicer, safer place. And so I said that those two things are what's stopping you from traveling. What's more important, the travel or your car and your apartment? And she's like, well, travel, obviously. And that was the mental shift she had to make. And she got rid of that car, got something different. She moved. And from that point forward, she's traveling all over the place and she's living her best life. Not my best life. She's living her best life. And I think that one little story really illustrates the importance of really finding your values and living into that, not what the culture is saying. So sorry, that was a long answer.
No. Travis, I'm curious to ask you about your perspective. You went over this briefly in your last answer, but what if someone asked you to give you a definition of redefining the purpose that money plays in their life, what would you tell them?
I would say, and I think this is a big thing, we're trying to redefine the role that money plays in people's lives. I would say, instead of looking at it as a scorecard, instead of looking at it as the ultimate safety net or something that gives us comfort, I think we need to look at it as, how does it help us live out our calling? How does it help us live out our dreams? How does it help us get to where we aspire to be? Because often I think what we do is we say more money is better than less money. And so it's always about more. And the problem with more is that every time you have more is still more. And so I think what happens is we start to dwell more on the money than where we're trying to get to. And if we focus on where we're trying to get to, the money really isn't a thing. It's not this major presence in your life. It's one of the many tools we have to harness to do what we're truly called to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that through your podcast, Meaning Over Money, you try to share some of these lessons. So tell me all about the podcast and what it's all about, buddy.
Well, it was about a year ago we started ours, and I think you started yours a little before us. But we just thought to ourselves, we want to get this information out there. There's so many people talking about money out there, but it's always about, how do we have more? How do we make more? How do we retire earlier? How do we have more zeros in our bank account? And my business partner and I, we just kind of look at each other and say, there's more, we're missing something. And so we created a podcast where we just really talk about, in the title, it's Meaning Over Money, which is exactly what we talk about. Sometimes we'll talk about money, but if we do, it's never through the lens of money, it's through the lens of meaning. And we believe in work. We believe in creating impact on others. We believe in pursuing work that matters, waking up every day excited for the work that we're about to do. We love our work. And, before we turned the mics on today, you and I were talking about, it's Monday. Like we love Mondays. Like Mondays are great. It's a new opportunity to serve people. And so I think our message really is that we're meant for more, we're meant for better than just more money and more stuff and more status. That the meaning is missing. And I came from a career where people made a lot of money, and I coach people that make a lot of money. And I can tell you, the more money doesn't make people more happy. The meaning is what provides that. And so we just want people to recklessly pursue meaning in their life. And sometimes that's about money, but it's usually not.
Yeah, and I'm curious for you, Travis, on a personal level, what does it mean to you to live a purposely fulfilling life? I'm curious.
For me, it starts at home. It starts with my wife, Sarah. We've been married for 12 years and we have twin 5-year-old boys. And so to really recognize what's really important. And often if I were to be left to my own devices and not think about this stuff, I think I would always be in the pursuit of more, and my family could get left in the dust by my pursuit to quote unquote take care of my family, and in turn be less present in my family's life. So I think my family is the foundation, but then the next step for me is, what do I do? What do I need to do every day when I wake up to be excited for what's about to happen and to know that I'm going to add value to others' lives?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I was just going to say, so for me in this season of life, it's my coaching and speaking, it's the podcast, it's the, I do youth ministry. And so working with high school kids, these are the things I wake up every day and I know I'm living my best purpose. And people will often say to me, well, Travis, how do you know you want to do this for the rest of your life? To which I say, I don't. I may wake up one day and maybe I'll go back to my old job, or maybe I'll go get a different job. I just know that I need to wake up every day knowing that I'm serving a bigger purpose, that I'm serving others well.
Yeah, service over self, absolutely. And Travis, you brought up the fact that you have twin boys, and I have to tell you that I actually am an identical twin. Keith and I are a minute apart, and as you well know, twins have sort of a twin telepathy. And before I answer this question, I'll let you know that both me and my brother were born with cerebral palsy. My brother grew out of his when we were 4 months old, but we still share this twin connection. So I'm curious, even though your boys are young, do you see sort of the twin telepathy thing growing in your boys?
We saw it early, and then it kind of seemed like it went away, and now there's this thing where they can just give each other a look. We'll be in a room, my wife and I and the boys, and they'll give each other a look, and we're like, uh-oh, they know something we don't know, and so they can give that look. But then also, I think if one of them is having a hard time communicating his feelings and communicating like what he's going through, the other brother just knows, and he'll explain it for him. And that's really weird because he can articulate it in a way that we didn't even know he understood it. And so there's that weird connection where they just know each other so well that there's an unspoken knowing between the two of them. It's kind of creepy sometimes, but it's really a beautiful thing to watch play out because like having a brother, best friends, worst enemies. And they're always on antagonizing each other, but those moments where you can feel that genuine connection is so sweet.
Yeah, and Travis, I'm curious, when we look at the pandemic, Travis, I'm wondering if you saw a shift in your clients on how they manage or thought about money. I'm curious.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, several of my clients through that experience made some really profound shifts in their life. And I think there's a lot of people in our society, and some of them I work with, that they were pretty locked in on their careers, pretty locked in on this idea of progressing and promotion and status and more money. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I do think they lost sight of what the meaning was. And when the pandemic hit and everybody was forced home and they were spending more time with their kids and their spouse, I think a lot of people, something unlocked in them where they recognize, I don't want to go back to that old life, because that old life, I mean, people only know what they know. And you live your life and you wake up every day and you find it to be tolerable. I always say, the statistics show that and this is an American statistic, 7 out of 10 Americans dislike or hate their job. But that culture of disliking your job is so normalized that we don't think maybe there's another way. And I think what the pandemic did is it showed people who might have been in a life that they didn't like, it showed them life could look different. And when they saw different, they realized they didn't have to go back. They could carve out a new path. And I think what a lot of people have done in my world, and I think this isn't about just me, like I'm seeing it everywhere. I'm seeing it on social media. I'm seeing it, in friends of friends, but people are pursuing something different because they realized there's better to be had than just more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know outside of work, Travis, that you would enjoy traveling. I also know that you live in the great state of Iowa, and you're an adventure seeker at heart, Travis. So outside of the office, buddy, how do you define fun? I'm curious.
I always say memories over things. I look at the stuff I have, and I have a nice phone, and I have a sweet Apple computer, and I have the things I have, but these things will be in a landfill in a handful of years. But the memories that we create as a family and with friends and with, youth group kids, like the memories will last forever. Nothing can take those away. And so for me, it's about pursuing experience and memories. And part of that for me, that's travel and food. I love travel and I love trying unique foods. Through my work, I've spent a lot of time in the Middle East and Europe, and in work and ministry, I've spent a lot of time in Asia. And so spending time in China, Hong Kong, Thailand, Mongolia, those places just changed me. And seeing the other cultures, seeing how people live, seeing the different ways of doing things, that has enriched my life so much. And I would say as we're coming out of the pandemic and as my kids are getting a little bit older, sharing that with them. I think that's one of my aspirations in this next season of life, is to help my kids experience culture in a different way.
Yeah, it's important. Culture of perspective gives you a chance to really look at life from a different lens. So I think that's also very important. And I'm curious to ask you, Travis, about your role as a youth minister and whether you view yourself as sort of a role model for those that you minister to follow. I'm curious.
I think it really comes down to leading by example. We can, and this goes to teachers, this goes to coaches, any adult that has a role in a young person's life, is that we can say things all we want, but they will see what we do. They will watch our behavior. And so I believe that we need to model better. We need to model what it looks like to live differently. And so for me, I feel like words are cheap. At least words without action behind them are cheap. And so for me, I've always just wanted to model what I feel like a meaningful life is, a meaningful God honoring life. And I think kids see that. And I don't know. And I always look at it as I'm planting seeds. I don't know what the impact is that I have in my role. And my role is not the leader in the youth group. My role is a leader. And, but I always look at, I'm planting seeds, and I've been in it long enough, about 9 years, where it's fun to see these young adults now that are getting married and they have careers and they're becoming parents. They come back around and they'll say, Travis, you don't know this, but this thing that you did made a difference in my life. And I had no idea. And but for them telling me, I may never have had an idea. That's special to me, to know that it wasn't about my words, it was about my actions. And I think, and this isn't, a uniquely Christian thing or uniquely youth group church thing. This is coaches and parents and teachers and whoever else plays a role in lives of young people. We all get to do that. And even as simple as, how do we conduct ourselves on social media? And what I always say is, before I post anything on social media, I always ask myself, would my mom or would my youth group kids be proud of this? And if I would upset my mom or my youth group kids, I don't post it, because I got to show them better. Because if I don't, where are we going to go with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Travis, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal and professional legacy, and how you think you may want that to be defined, buddy, at the end of your life.
I think when all is said and done and I'm gone, I just want people to know that I served other people the best I could. And that I used my gifts and my passions unselfishly, and that I just added value where I could. I tried to make a difference where I could. And whether that's a little or a lot, and I don't know what that's going to be, but whether it's a little or a lot, I want people to know that I did my best.
Yeah, and your legacy will live on if you do that. Absolutely. Well, Travis, I have to tell you that I really enjoy spending a few minutes and engaging in conversation with you about money, life, and everything in between. Your time on my behalf and work in the space, buddy, is most appreciated. And I want to thank you for joining me this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It means a lot.